All right. Savage Brushstroke, episode 11. It's me, Ralph, Precious Gorgeous, and we're here with Casey James Salengo.
Hey, how you doing, Precious Gorgeous? Good to
Uh,
see you, man. I miss your dance parties. I can't wait to get
yes,
out the groove. Danny.
yeah. So, well, this is a great opportunity. The context under which Casey and I know each other, I assumed you've been coming to my. I used to host karaoke at a bunch of places, including Cobra Club, and
Mm.
you and your buddies would kind of have a great time for a couple years. I want to say.
Yeah, too many years, probably.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so I always assumed you were a comic, and but I don't think I still to this day I've never seen you do stand up live. But yeah, I recently saw some stuff you posted online. I was like, this guy's an amazing comic, which I didn't doubt. Uh, um, and um, and your wife Courtney hosts a
Yeah.
show with an old buddy. I did stand up like 10 years ago, and I used to run with a bunch of guys, and one of those guys was Tomas.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Is he,
Um,
I was friends with him. He was one of my first friends in comedy, too. He was like the first person who was nice to me. It was great. And then I ended up running a show with my wife.
yes, yes,
She's
beautiful.
on a call with her work right now, so
Oh,
she might come and yell at me at some point.
okay, beautiful. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So it's so fun. I had always. I don't know if I was able. I probably did, but I always. That's one of the things I loved about doing that party is that because on Friday nights, Eric Bergstrom, who's on a couple episodes ago, because he was doing that show with all his different co-producers and stuff, had that comedy show. I always had like a ton of comedians at my karaoke, which sometimes was annoying, but was also really, really awesome, because it brought such a different energy into that room than would have been otherwise. And I want to say you were one of the four most people who was always like there and like participating in earnest, like having a lot of fun, but really enjoying yourself and like, really like just like participating and having fun as a comedian and like I'm sure you gave permission to a lot of other comics to like do the same, and I really appreciated that because I appreciated having you guys in the room so much.
Oh, thanks, man. No, you were the best. I love karaoke. It's very earnest. I did that way before comedy, so
Oh wow.
I think it's way more fun than comedy a lot of times. I wish I was a better singer. I'd probably do that professionally instead of comedy. But don't got the chops, so I appreciate you putting on. I want to hear about the times when it was annoying. Who annoyed you?
It would never it was more like personally annoying than like it never hurt the party. It's more just like I'm gonna get into it because it's like a personal pet peeve. It has nothing to do with like if anybody ever did anything bad to the
Yeah.
party or hurt the room. It's more like I said, like I did improv. I've done improv most of my life. Like, and I came up with like I said, like I came up with Tomas. Like one of the first people I met when I moved to New York was Tyler Fisher. Um, who else did I know? Like I've just known. I've just been around comedians a long time, and so I've seen like a 12-year trajectory of like from when a comic starts, when a comedian starts to when they're mature, and like a lot of young comics like sincerity is not available to them. They're sort of always hiding behind a bit. And like the magic is when somebody can be doing a kind of a bit and having fun, but still being vulnerable. And so, kind of when you're in the room and you're singing and you're like above the song, like, yeah, I'm singing the song, that kind of ruins it for me. Like, because what I like to see is it's the same when somebody comes in and they have a really great voice and they're there to just showcase their voice and they're not really like loving the song that they're singing. I'm just like, why are you here? What this is not
Yeah.
what this is for, and it is what it is for. It's not. I'm not. I would never say. That's just what I'm thinking. I would never say that
No,
to
I agree.
anybody.
100%. There's a lot of comics, especially in this area, Bushwick, where we live. There's very bit heavy and very insincere, which is kind of cute when you're starting, but like the older you get, it's just fucking be real. I don't know,
Yeah.
like people are going because they're just so uncomfortable with themselves that they just have to be living a bit all the time, and that's very annoying to me. That's exactly what I would have guessed you would have said. I would have
Yes.
said it's like just have a good time. Just listen up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun to see. I have a video that I still think I have it of a slow motion video of Matt Koff singing and just like nailing some part and like sincerely being like, yes! And I have it in slow motion and I just because I see him as sort of like a dry, smart, witty comic, and to see him really just be so elated about how much fun he was having, like I'm sure he was like hamming it up and being silly too, but he really seems like to really just be alive and excited and like that just melts my heart. That's like that to me is like that karaoke was made special for that it was sort of was tethered to comedy in that way. I loved it for that reason. I really loved it.
Yeah, I did too. I was always happy doing that show. It was always a blast, and then hanging out with all my buds afterwards at the Cobra Club. I
Yeah,
moved here like 6 years ago to this area, so I've been going there for that long, I think. And baby, I miss it. All right, I'm gonna be there every weekend when this is over, bud.
yeah, man. Oh, I love it. I want to. I mean, I'll go. I haven't been back to. Obviously, nobody's been back because of the quarantine. But like, I still plan to go out there and hang out and do karaoke and like, and I just love that bar is great and just that show that Eric created is great. And that it's just like that Friday night there was a special thing, and then House of Yes is around the corner. There's all kinds of crazy shit happening outside. It's just a beautiful thing. So I wanna. So that's context a lot of how we know one another. Just basically just in karaoke. I want to know just a little bit about your comedy journey. Like how long have you been doing stand up? And how long you been in New York and where you coming here from? If you come from, or maybe you're from New York, but what was just like a little succinct, like where'd you start and where are you at right now?
I started here 9 years ago. Actually, this is yeah, this week it's been 9 years.
Wow.
Um,
Happy
for the first
anniversary. Yeah.
9 years, I moved from. Let's see, I was living in New York, a couple different
Okay.
places. I went to college up there. I moved to California for a couple months. Then I came back, and then I moved here. I did one open mic when I
You're gonna have to repeat everything you just said because you froze up a little on me.
was in college.
Don't you freeze on me, internet?
25, and
Ah! I've lost everything Casey just said. Internet. Nice. Nice. That's a nice way to cover. I just lost. I just yeah. You're back now. I just lost a bunch of what you just said. So yeah, nice. So you have another chance, another crack at it. What I saw was you moved. You were in California. You came back to New York, and then is that right when you started? Oh crap! I'm losing you. Yeah, I don't know if it's me or you.
it's not. It's the.
Are you?
I'm just face to see if you can hear it.
I can still hear. Okay. Yeah. So let's skip to. So you came to New York, and then you started right away. What was the first
I can
mic
hear.
you said you went to?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's
This is
okay. We're
terrible.
gonna we're gonna power through this. So, um, what? I feel like you're here. What? Okay, cool. Let's just try to jump into the pieces you have.
What?
Yes, let's jump into the pieces that you have. What's the first piece that you brought? Ah! How do I help? How do I help with the internet?
What?
Is there any way I can? I don't know if I can help, but if my signal gets stronger, if that helps you. Um,
I feel so bad.
no, don't feel bad at all. If this doesn't work this way, then we'll just do. Let's try this. Let's try just doing. Um, how about could you try lowering the resolution on your camera, or do you want to just try audio? I don't know if we can just do audio. Oh no. Savage Brushstroke viewers, this episode is we're gonna have to try it again probably. Let's see if Casey comes back or if he figures out something else. Uh, all right, we're gonna try again. Those of you who are watching, thank you for being patient. I'd like these 3 minutes of technical difficulties. But I really want to talk to Casey. He's connecting. Okay, there you are. Hey, try doing this. Go down to cam mic, which you should see at the bottom, if you see that
Okay.
option there, and try to lower your resolution of your camera. I'll do the same, and I think that might help. That might use less.
Where do I go?
Um, Underneath, if you have, if you're on the screen, on the StreamYard screen, underneath it should say mute, stop cam, cam mic. You can even try stop cam if you want, and just do audio if that helps.
Yeah, it doesn't. I turned the camera off. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, that's most important. Yeah, I'll put a picture of your face somewhere when we post this so people can imagine it. You hearing me at all? Uh-oh. Hello. Whoop. Mic is muted. Ah!
No.
I can hear you.
All right, I'm here.
Okay, good. Okay,
All right.
beautiful. All
Thanks
right.
for
You there? Can you hear me?
I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, so let's go through this because I want to really go through this. So you said you came to New York and you just started. Did you just jump straight into comedy? Had you started in California? Were you doing it in college?
No, I did it one time in college, just an open mic. I was doing like acting and I was like hosting stuff in college, which made me realize I wanted to do comedy, but there wasn't really many opportunities. I went to California I was actually working on a weed farm to raise money to move to New York, so I wasn't there for
Wow.
any. I wasn't there for any entertainment reasons. Uh, and then I moved here and I just jumped in. I planned on doing like, I don't know, acting, improv, stand up, but I just started stand up my first week and I was like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, haven't stopped since, except for now.
Where did you go to school? Upstate?
SUNY Oneonta.
Okay, okay. A lot of my homies went to SUNY New Paltz.
Oh, yes, lovely town.
Mm-hmm. Onyanka. Cool. And so that was what, about 9 years ago. And so you started right around then.
Yeah, so exactly 9 years ago. I must have I think I graduated, yeah, the summer before, and then I moved here in April. Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah, this week. It's crazy. I didn't realize that.
Hmm. Let's go into the pieces that you brought. Let's start with the piece that's not from a peer. So where the quote unquote famous artist is.
So saying big movies, I was trying to decide. I was trying to come up with something more interesting, like a novel or a song that inspired me. No, there's no novel that inspired me to do comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
Movies, like my big comedy movies when I was younger, where I was trying to decide between this is Spinal Tap, which is still I still think is the funniest movie. It still holds up to this day, and that inspired a lot of just comedic timing and even just like it's exactly the kind of shit that I think is funny. But then also, this is probably the less cool answer, but Anchorman when that came out, was I watched that like 5 times a week. When I started stand up, I was just doing a straight up Will Ferrell impression that I had to like unteach myself uh, from that. So those were my two favorite comedy movies growing up.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I know both those movies, and they both share a lot of DNA. And then there's a lot of similar. It's funny. It's funny that you say that Spinal Tap is the cooler answer and Anchorman is the less cool answer. That's so interesting. Because to me, I love Spinal Tap, but I connect with it probably less than I do Anchorman. Anchorman, I think, might be the perfect comedy.
Yeah, it's
Um,
my favorite. I laugh from the opening credits to the end. I guess I'm just being self conscious because I know a lot of there's some things that are kind of co opted by annoying people because they're funny, but it doesn't make them less funny. It's still
mm,
because a
mm.
lot of annoying people were saying Milk was a bad choice for 10 years. Doesn't mean it was a bad movie.
Oh, I mean, what a joke. I mean, golly.
My
Just
favorite
that.
the whole movie is right in that scene, and it's so I don't know why he's walking after he drinks the milk. He's walking down the street, and there's a lady walks past him in a red hat, and he just lady in the red hat, yeah. From the whole movie, I don't know why. It's so stupid.
Oh man. So this is okay. Could you contrast that? What could you identify your favorite or one of your favorite jokes in Spinal Tap?
Spinal Tap. I always remember them when they're reading the reviews, and they're just like they say the one review just says shit sandwich, and it was like, who said you can't print that? What did they print? I don't know why. Like the physical bits, like when they all were hanging out and they all of a sudden had like cold sores because they had all been like hooking up with the same girl. I don't like that. It's
Mm.
just there's like big. I like the understated. I know the like kind of unspoken stupid jokes that like those are more my favorite that I connect to than like big set piece jokes. I think comedy is better when it's like on a smaller scale a lot of times and kind of more intimate and personal. So that kind of represents that to me.
So, um, can you talk about? Ooh, that's it's so interesting because that so the both those jokes to me, all three of those jokes are two of them are very visual. The other one is like you can't print that, which is a very like small and subtle joke. Can you talk about how visual humor and like really small kind of slip by you jokes, how are those things you're working to add to your set? Are those things when you find them you just get really excited about them? Is that just your natural comedic point of view anyway, and that is what resonates with you, or did you like hear and see those jokes and go, "Oh wow, you can do that"?
I think it's kind of naturally just what I found out was funny about me. Funny. I mean, I'm an okay writer, but it's not like my passion. Like writing, like sitting out and write. A lot of comedians will just like sit and like write jokes over and over, and that's not
Hmm.
my style. Mine is just kind of connecting with my physicality. I find and I'm more funny to like look at, like doing dumb stuff. And I was like, I can do this better than other people. I can't write jokes better than other people all the time, but I can be more of like a clown. So I'm just a big dumb clown, and I like to do as many movements and just like physical stuff as I can do, because I think when that's when that's funny. I think it's way funnier than like a really well written joke to me, anyway.
Wow. That's so interesting because it's less obvious maybe with Anchorman, but I would say those two movies are probably very similar in that they're the comedy is quote unquote it's smart. Oh man, I got a million thoughts right now. One thing you're really bringing out is how much our generation for some reason really appreciates stupid
Yeah.
humor and what that is. Like and I'm sure you might be too. I'm a huge Eric Andre fan.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I came up on Tom Green. I came up on
Tom Green was my idol.
Jackass. Yeah, who is?
Tom Green was my idol growing up. Yeah, I got to open for him once, and it was like such a huge. I couldn't. I was trying not to be such a nerd, but it was like me and my friends just used to watch him for hours and hours. We got his old tapes for when he was doing Canadian public access, and I was just obsessed with him. And I love that kind of stupid, because it's stupid, but there's an intelligence behind it that is like underlying and not at the forefront. Which when comedy has the intelligence at the forefront, that isn't that funny to me, and it's kind of annoying. But other people like it, but that just doesn't appeal to me that much. So when it's like stupid with an underlying intelligence, that's what really hits home with me.
God, yeah, I so resonate with that. I was showing my girlfriend Anya, who's also a stand-up. I showed her this joke, and I showed her this joke that I always loved when I was a kid. It hits not as hard with me now, but the first time I saw it, I was like, "What is happening?" It's from Mad TV, and Will Sasso was doing Kenny Rogers'
I
Jackass.
knew you were gonna say that. I love that's so funny. I like
Right. And then there's a bit right at the top of the sketch where he's like, "This is the policeman trick," or something like that. And he runs up to a policeman and says, "Hey, policeman, can you help me?" And the policeman's like, "What?" And he grabs his gun and he runs, right? And the cop is chasing him, and and then Kenny Rogers immediately, on purpose, lifts his foot up and shoots. And I don't know, to this day, I don't understand what the point of that was. And that just made me laugh so hard.
yeah.
I don't know what that is about us that we we connect to that so much. Like I feel like you and I are kind of both get in that pocket of like this absurdist, wildly physical, but just like crazy. I mean, the jokes you brought up are just not just physical jokes. I mean, like Lady in the Red Hat. That's a great joke. Milk was a bad choice. Those are just real tight
Yeah.
word choices. Shit sandwich. That's just like ah, that's so good. And I think that's what I wanted to say as well. Is like I find you to be a really good writer, and like you make really nice turns in your jokes that are like they're not absurdist and they're not nonsensical. In fact, they're a lot of times very emotionally intelligent. But I guess you present them in this body of like this like lanky oaf who's like I don't know, but like you make these very I want to say like you strike me as a comic who's very in touch with not only kind of like I might be a bro, but I also am very in touch with how I feel about things.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you very much. I like being vulnerable, and I think that's where I started being funny when I was younger, just to like kind of mask insecurities and pains about stuff. So I think that kind of developed when I was younger as a coping mechanism. So then when I got older, like I do kind of look like a bro now, but if you saw me when I was younger, that's not like who I am at all. I feel like sometimes my physical representation is kind of undermines who I am inside. I grew very late, so I'm like tall and doofy looking, but I'm just a fat little boy on the inside, and that I just think silliness and yeah, just being that's always funny. I was watching like this is a lot of people don't like this, but I was watching like George Carlin the other night, and like, well, I was like, I respect. He's very good public speaker, he's a very good comic, clearly, but I'm like, none of this is really hitting me or making me laugh that much. I'm like, this is very intelligent and I'm enjoying it, but it
Mm,
wasn't
mm.
in the where I laugh. So I find myself being like, oh, this is impressive more than laughing at it. So like intelligent, well written stuff doesn't always hit me as like something silly or yeah, it's just not as emotionally resonant with me.
That's so. I'm so with you on that. Like, I think there's a couple of like there's a couple arguments that like that are polarizing, or that you're either on one side or the other, and some people could be both and not want to choose. But like, you're either a Beatles guy or a Stones guy, or either a Beatles guy or Beach Boys guy, or you're either Jay-Z or Nas, or you're either Michael Jackson or Prince, or you know what I mean. You're either De Niro or Pacino, and you're either Carlin or Pryor.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
You know,
definitely prior.
yeah, it's so interesting who chooses what side and why. Um, yeah, I don't.
Well, I think I like
What is it? What
Pryor connected more to personal stuff, and he was like silly on top of talking about like deeply personal and painful stuff. Whereas sometimes some of Carlin's stuff just feels kind of preachy. I don't like when a comic like puts himself kind of above the audience and is kind of talking down about how they're more intelligent than other people. So that just kind of that doesn't strike me as very funny personally. I would rather you kind of deconstruct yourself and what's wrong with you, and you can speak to larger issues through that vein. But I think I would just find that way more interesting and funny.
is there? And you may not have an answer for this, and I'm trying to think of one myself. Is there one comic you can think of who is the opposite of that? Who is the opposite of that that you do find yourself loving? Who is like
Well,
smart and witty, or and doesn't quite show much vulnerability, but you find yourself into them anyway.
well, let me see. Smart and witty. I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of smart comics. When you're talking about comics like when I was younger, it's weird because like Mitch Hedberg was my favorite growing up, and he does not. He's just telling one-liner jokes, which isn't really something that I do, and he's not speaking that personally about stuff. But I guess there's like you could see the character behind it and see the person behind it, and that's what made it so great. It was because of who it was behind it. So that's what I was thinking about. That's not my style of joke writing or something I normally enjoy is like one-liner stuff, but just he does it in such a unique way that I just is my favorite.
It's so funny that I think in parallel with this thing we're talking about of like how our generation is so into like stupid comedy, the comedians that I can think of who are like, I mean, because immediately off top, I'm thinking of like Bill Maher, John Oliver, fucking who's the other guy, Dennis Miller. Like those are the guys I immediately think of, and I'm like, I'm not interested in them at all. Like I kind of like Bill Maher when I was young, but I don't really, I'm not super into him. But then, like immediately after them, I go, well, there's Colin Quinn, there's Seinfeld, who are both kind of smart,
Yeah.
um, but like to me, and I see it especially with Seinfeld, well, on his show, really, and especially in Comedians in Cars, like Seinfeld is like he's not talking about politics, but he's very witty and very sharp, but he's also like doing takes, and he tries to find moments to be physical and stupid. So I feel like in our era, we've seen a lot of like sort of like this sort of synthesis of like the dumb and the smart comic going like, oh no, we can actually be one. We can be the same thing. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's great. Guys like I don't know, like Colin Quinn you brought up is like he's very intelligent in the things he speaks that are like huge issues, but he also like he's just like kind of mumbly and he like doesn't take himself seriously, and that makes me like him so much more than someone like or even like the comic you're saying like Bill Maher and John Oliver. Like I do not like Bill Maher, but I love John Oliver because Bill Maher does seem like he thinks he's better than the audience, and he's kind of speaking like he thinks he's smarter. Whereas John Oliver presents himself kind of as like an idiot who's, who just happens to have ideas about these very important topics, but he's still kind of a dumb person at his core, and that's why I
mm,
find it way funnier.
oh man, could let's move on to the piece from up here that you wanted to talk about.
So you have a piece from a peer that I want to talk about, I guess. Someone. A friend of mine is Nick Vatterott. I mean, he used to come to the Cobra Club all the
Oh yeah,
time.
I'm super familiar with Battlerat. One of the yeah,
Just
great.
one of the, he's one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. One of the most incredible performers I've ever seen live. And he should be way bigger than he is, but he's still. I mean, he's still very successful. But everyone, he should be a household name. And just
Yeah.
like his album is incredible. If you ever have the chance to see him perform live, I've just seen him do 40 minutes of like one bit, kind of tying back into itself, but still being wacky and silly and super physical. So
Wow.
the album's called For Your Amusement, which is great.
Yeah,
But if
yeah.
you have a chance to see him live, he's one of my favorite comics.
Is it that album in particular? Is there a bit in particular that you can think of that like you feel like is just your favorite bit of his, or you feel like defines what you like about him, or
I'm trying to remember what exactly included on the album because I've seen him way more live than I have
doesn't
listened to
have
the
to be
album.
on the
Like this
album? Could
one
just
bit,
be a joke that you saw.
he kind of he says he's gonna say whole joke backwards, and then he does it. He like says the whole thing in reverse, and then he says it forward. And I don't know how to describe how funny it is to see live, but it's just the precision that he nails it with while being so silly and stupid is great. I saw him perform one time where he pretended like the power was going out, and he like had all these tricks, and then like he didn't reference it, and then it tied back in like 30 minutes later, where there's like all these electrical cues and all this weird stuff that was just incredible to see. And he just like branches out in strange ways that no one else would really think of. It's really an experience that I would say you need to find a way to see him live. He lives in LA now, but I'm assuming he'll come back to New York sometime. But he's just fantastic.
Um, After you finish watching like one of his sets, can you remember like what's the first thing you're saying to yourself afterward? Are you just like that was fucking awesome? Are you immediately like I got to go home and write? Are you trying to break down and deconstruct how he achieved what he did, or how that joke was even written, or how you might have gotten to that joke? Like, what is your immediate inclination to like go home and work, or is your immediate inclination to just be like, I can't believe I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah, definitely. I would say go home and work. As comedians, we're all kind of narcissists and think about ourselves and our own crazy. So I like seeing something like that. I'm like, damn, how did he like plan all that out? He put that much thought into it, but still made it like silly and fun. And it just makes you think of ways that you need to branch out with your own comedy. That you like watching someone like him or like Rory Scovel, who's another great comic, just like improvise the whole thing. And I'm like, that the fact that they just have the balls to do that kind of stuff is like it's very inspiring. And watching that whenever I'm in a rut comedically and I can't really think of stuff, like watching other comics be really good at it will kind of spark the creative, juices in my brain and just make me start like remembering what I thought was funny and remembering stuff I want to do and stuff I want to talk about. So whenever I'm in a rut, I just listen or watch my favorite comics and just get inspired.
Dude, that's so crazy how like you can go, especially your peers, but any artist that you admire, because I totally know what you're talking about. Like when I'm a rapper as well, and sometimes I get lost in like how do I rap? What do I like to rap about? What do I do? And like it's so crazy how listening to somebody else that you admire like do what they do well, even if you might be jealous of it or might feel inferior to it or whatever, you're just like, oh, this is fucking awesome. However you feel, it's so crazy how going to somebody else's work can help you remember who you are and
Yeah,
what.
I think it's absolutely true. And any kind of art we're doing, definitely in comedy or rap, like I think we get so close to it that we kind of like lose sight. We get like tunnel vision and kind of lose sight of why we were doing this in the first place and what we were really connected to about it. So we need opportunities to kind of step outside of ourselves and see other people doing the same thing to really spark, that initial instinct we had when we first started doing it, which you can lose touch with, but you got to find ways to like keep connected with.
Um, Nice. I really this has been great, and I love the pieces that you chose, and I feel like we're like we enjoy like the same kind of pocket of comedy. It's like physical, wild, kind of absurdist comedy. I guess this is the last thing I'm gonna say. It's funny to me that those are the kinds of comedies that you talked about. Spinal Tap, which is this great parody, and also Anchorman, which is both kind of parodies of like this archetype, this sort of either the archetype of the crazy rock star, the narcissist rock star, the narcissist news anchor rock star, and then also Nick Vatterad, who's this like explosion of surrealism and absurdity. But it's so interesting that you have all those qualities and what I've seen of your comedy, and that's what you do. But there's something like very I hope you take this absolutely the right way, but there's something like you're almost like the Ray Romano version of that, where you have this absurdist point of view and things that are so like emotionally intelligent and grounded. It's so interesting how you are taking sort of the qualities and the tools of this one kind of comedy and then dragging it all the way to this other place of what you're interested in, which is like showing your vulnerability and expressing and being vulnerable and open about who you are. And not to say those other people don't do it, but you know what I mean? Those would.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I'm striving to do. So I appreciate you saying that. It's just like, man, yeah, I like showing every side of yourself, but like also being silly. And I love it when you say something on stage as like a dark secret and like you feel weird about it, and then someone afterwards will like tell you about like, yeah, man, like I told this story recently about like my dad crying at my stepmom's funeral, and I felt like I shouldn't be telling this, and it was weird, but I made it like silly and fun. And some dude came up to me afterwards like, man, my dad, like, is this older dude, he's like, I saw my dad do the same thing, never saw him crying to that. And then we just like talk about that, and I'm like, yeah, when you can connect with people through like being vulnerable and then put the silliness on top of it to make it palatable, I think, yeah, that's the best stuff. So I love it.
Okay. I just went because I think the last talk I did was with another comic, maybe Jonathan Kaplan, or maybe it was Tanel Joachim. It was one of those two guys. But we were talking. I was telling about like I'm obsessed with Mr. Rogers ever since the documentary came out, and like it occurs to me that comedians maybe have always, but like do this, especially stand-ups, do the same thing where like the really good ones, I feel like, open up this because they're making jokes that make room for us to talk about these things that we otherwise would never talk about. They like open up the floor. It like creates this place where you're kind of doing the same thing Mr. Rogers did, which was like your pain, your embarrassment, your shame, your anger. It's safe for you to live with those things here. And it's safe for you to talk to, even if not to me, then to adults you trust or whatever. Like that, I feel like is what Mr. Rogers was doing. He was like this crossing guard. He was like, no, you can cross. You can. I know you don't feel like it's safe to cross, but I'm telling you, you can cross. It's so funny how like comics have now come into that position where they can kind of do the same thing, where like they'll talk about their divorce, they'll talk about their disease, or they'll talk about their addiction, or they'll talk about their fears or whatever, and it kind of opens up this path for other people to go, oh, I want to talk about that too, you know?
Yeah, right. And I think Mr. Rogers is a perfect example of that. And I think, yeah, that's the best stuff, and that's the real juice of it.
Yeah, dude, that was beautiful. It was a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, Casey, for sitting and doing this with me. This was a really nice talk, and now I feel like I'm gonna go back and watch Spinal Tap again.
Yeah, thanks, man. Great. I'm glad we could work it out, and you got me hankering to do comedy again. So I'm just gonna probably sit here and tell my wife shitty jokes all night. So
nice, good.
All right, take it easy, bud.
All right, bud. All the best. Oh, yes, all the best. All the best to you. That was it.
All right, later.
All right, peace.